And right now we are 2 minutes away from the end of the trading day. Romaine Bostick alongside David Gura taking you through to that closing bell with a global simulcast. It starts right now. Carol Massar in the radio booth. Alexis Christoforous in today for Tim Stenovic. Katie Greifeld on assignment. Welcome to our audiences across all of our Bloomberg platforms, including our partnership with YouTube. A mixed day on Wall Street. And a reminder, Carol, the last gasp of this earnings season coming after the bell tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. HPE and Ulta reporting after the closing bell. I got to say, the market just searching for direction. What's interesting, our Bill Maloney was here in studio and said, I'm like, what happened with the market? And he's like, well, I don't know. Bitcoin went down. We saw the market go down. Bitcoin went back up, and we saw the market go back up. But it's really interesting to see the two mirror one another. But I just think we're searching for direction here.
And nothing's really going to happen until next week, folks. I mean, let's get real, right? We've got the Federal Reserve, really the only catalyst on the docket, aside from these few, earnings reports that we still have to get through. By the way, I just want to point out, oil is up today. WTI up better than 1%, Brent up about 1%, and gold, not to be left out, now above 4,200 an ounce again.
Alexis, you bring up the Fed. I think that is the driver here for so many people in this market today. Of course, a lot of news about the personality of the Federal Reserve. What's going to happen with the Fed chair when he leaves that time? Who's going to fill in that job? The reporting from Bloomberg that Kevin Hassett, the leading contender to take that job, be nominated by the president. And then the follow-on news today reported by Bloomberg that there are folks in the administration talking about him moving into that job, and perhaps Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent becoming the head of the NEC. Just a lot of changes in the White House and the Federal Reserve as well. Yeah,
I encourage anyone who has a Bloomberg terminal, run the work function on your terminal, and you'll get a sense of what David is talking about, a market pricing in near certainty for a rate cut next week. But beyond that, well, it's not even a coin flip here. Nobody really knows what's going to happen next. As for today, we know what happened. You see it on the screen. A Dow Jones Industrial Average is going to finish the day in the red as we wait for these numbers to settle down roughly about 30 points or so. The S&P 500 is going to finish in the green, higher by 7 points or 0.1%. The NASDAQ up 0.2%. And the Russell 2000, which at one point was flirting with a record high, going to come in just short of that. It did rise up about 19 points or 0.8%.
All right, that's the small caps, the Russell, but I'm going to go back to the S&P 500. Romaine.
Oh, wait, I correct myself.
What?
That is a record high for the Russell 2000.
Ah,
yeah.
That's
I corrected myself before you could, Carol.
Very good.
I didn't want to do that to you. See how kind I can be? Yeah. All right, S&P 500, 252 names to the upside, folks. You've got 249 losing ground. 2 unchanged.
And we take a look at the IMAP, the circle as Katie Greifeld will call it here. And it gets to this idea here of the rotation that we've seen over the past few sessions. This idea that it is industrials and it is energy and financials that have been leading the charge. Tech did get a bid in there, but we should point out a big part of the reason why you see tech in the green today is because of that big push up by Meta.
All right, so let's go there because that is my number one gainer. You can see it playing out. It is the number one gainer, in fact, in the NASDAQ 100 stock. Finishing off its highs. At its highs was up about 5.7%, but finishing with a gain of about 3.5% for the Thursday trade. That exclusive by our own Kurt Wagner on how Mark Zuckerberg is expected to cut resources when it comes to building out the metaverse. Remember back in 2021, that's what it was all about. They changed the company name. It was going to be the future of the company. Sounds like they are dialing that back. Executives have apparently discussed potential budget cuts as much as 30% for the Metaverse Group next year, and that could include
Did you see the joke
layoff.
online now? Everybody's trying to buy up domain names that they think Meta's going to, when they change their name to something AI or whatever.
I said to Kurt, do you think it's going to be Meta AI? And he's like, I don't even want to report
why not,
that out.
man? If it costs a couple $100, you may make a few million.
I love. All right, let's go to Dollar General. As you mentioned, Romaine, we are still getting earnings. We got a lot of that from the retail community this week. This stock pretty much finishing at its best levels of the day, up 14%, number one gainer in the S&P 500. Dollar General raising its full-year outlook, highlighting value-focused retailers are winning over consumers hunting for deals. So interesting when you see people looking for deals, maybe trading down even at a Dollar General. They did cite some share gains in both its consumable and non-consumable categories, suggesting its low-cost groceries are winning over customers. And then one more, something a little different, GE Vernova. This was a top gainer in the S&P 500, up about 4.5%. Barclays analysts coming out, maintaining an overweight, raising the price target from $710 to $720. Some company news, they won a repeat wind turbine order from Greenvolt in Romania. I just thought I'd throw that in, a little extra. Stock is up about 93% year to date. So talk about some outperformance here.
Yeah, well, how about a little underperformance? Because I'm looking at the decliners. Intel leading the pack there for the S&P 500 today. Not a great day for Intel investors. Stock off about 7.5%. But you know what? it's still up about 100% year to date, coming off a strong Q3 numbers. But Intel says it's going to keep its networking division in-house. So this reverses plans that it had to spin it off or sell a stake. And it also has ended talks with Ericsson, which we know had been exploring a potential investment in the network and edge group there at Intel. So Intel down more than 7% today. Also among the big decliners, Wynn. Not really winning today. Wynn Resorts. There was a warning actually from Marriott earlier today. They were at a conference and Marriott was talking about possible weakness in the U.S. market. That sort of dragged travel-related stocks down. Wynn was one of them. But also Wynn Resorts told investors that almost 90% of revenue from its new UAE project could come from gambling. So I don't know if people love the fact that so much of revenue is going to be,
Everybody loves gambling, it seems.
And we're getting casinos here in New York. So, yeah, I think you're right. By the way, so Wynn off more than 4% on the day. Also down about 4%. Kroger today, it cut its sales guidance. Shoppers get choosier. We keep hearing this theme, increased competition from places like Walmart. Also, they're going to go back to paper coupons at Kroger. And they're also going to expand their private label brands.
What?
Which we see
Repeat that?
people do.
I missed that part of the story.
Clipping.
That's the future?
Yeah.
I know, get your scissors out.
Everything old is new again, I guess.
Okay, well, I guess my grandmother's sharing that. All right, let's take a quick look at yields. Another move higher pretty much across the curve today. I guess you could kind of call it a parallel shift, 3 to 4 basis points, pretty much from top to bottom. And I think, Alexis, you kind of hit it on the head a little bit earlier, this idea that this is a market right now kind of in waiting for next week, next Wednesday, where we do get that Fed decision. And almost near certainty we get a 25 basis point cut. But more importantly, what comes after that, not just with rate cuts, but, of course, with Fed leadership.
All right, let's go to some earnings crossing. Again, the retailers continue to report. I think this is where Romaine shops. Zoomies up about 8.25%.
My dog loves it.
Just saying.
His hoodies, they're all from Zoomies.
I just want to quickly say third quarter net sales beating estimates. And so investors definitely running into this one, Romaine.
Stitch Fix, Ulta also crossing the wire right now. So too is Hewlett-Packard Enterprise. The share is moving higher. The knee-jerk reaction after the release of the results up about 3%. The company says that in its most recent quarter, adjusted EPS beat pretty handily, 62 cents a share. The street was looking for 58 cents. Server revenue, a key metric that everybody has been keeping an eye on, coming in light, $4.46 billion. The street was looking for $4.7 billion if you round up. Now, going forward, the company says that for the full fiscal year, this is the current year that we're in right now, it is raising that guidance for fiscal 2026 here. It says adjusted EPS will be in a range of $2.25 to $2.45. It had previously seen $2.20 to $2.40, so basically raising that range by a nickel on both ends. As for revenue, $9 to $9.4 billion, and that actually is below street estimates. $9 billion to $9.4 billion is the range that they're giving for revenue for the full year. The street, David, was looking for 9.9.
All right, we've got Hewlett-Packard Enterprise just down about 0.4%. Let's go to Ulta, which is up about 1.6% here in the aftermarket. This company's been outperforming this year, up about 23% year to date. Here's why investors are enthused in the aftermarket. Ulta sees fiscal year comp sales up 4.4% to 4.7%. It had seen a rise of 2.5% to 3.5%. So that is certainly an upbeat forecast. Also sees fiscal year net sales of $12.3 billion. It had seen $12 billion to $12.1. So again, upping its forecast for fiscal year net sales. Company says it sees fiscal year net new stores up 62.6%. Had seen about 63%. That's 62.6, smack in line with what the street's expecting. And just going back to third quarter EPS, big beat, 514 versus an estimate of 461. Third quarter net sales also beat, 286 billion versus the estimate of 2.71 billion. And guys, we've got Ulta up about 3.4%. This was a subject of a Bloomberg Business Week cover story.
Yes.
They've been firing on all cylinders.
All right, let's stay in the retail space. Stitch Fix, much smaller company out. The shares, though, getting a nice little pop. In the most recent quarter, the company is still posting a loss, but revenue did come in slightly above expectations. As far as the forecast goes, the company says expect a first quarter loss, for the second quarter, the company is saying that it will actually flip that loss to a profit on a continuing basis. Also says that it sees revenue in the current fiscal second quarter of 335 to 340, the low end of that range, well above the average of street estimates.
It's a huge week for retail earnings, and I think at a moment we don't have a whole lot of data. We're getting dated data as it comes in here. This insight that we get into the consumer is just fascinating. And again, from both this company and from Ulta Beauty, you see that there is still a willingness, it seems, among a lot of consumers to go out and buy stuff, despite all uncertainty and concern about the economy.
And also, I think Stitch Fix, as more and more people look to save on clothing, and as apparel companies have to deal with tariffs, I think that this, news from Stitch Fix is actually to be applauded.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think for all the retailers, what we have been hearing a lot is about consumers. They're out there spending, but they're being cautious and careful about how they do it. Hey, as we say goodbye, Ulta up about 4.3% here in the aftermarket. HPE also just out with earnings. They're down about 2.8%.